Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining today evening for this program conducted by Endocrine Society of India for Patient Awareness. जैसे आप जानते हैं, Endocrine Society of India is the largest organization, professional body of qualified endocrinologists. The endocrinology, you all know, deals with study of hormones. जैसे कि हम जानते हैं हार्मोन्स होते हैं, इंसुलिन इज द मेजर हार्मोन, बाकी भी हार्मोन्स होते हैं, पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड, थायराइड, एड्रेनल, बहुत सारे हार्मोन्स हैं. उनमें से सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट हार्मोन है इंसुलिन. एंड द डेफिशिएंसी ऑफ इंसुलिन और रेसिस्टेंस टू इंसुलिन कॉजेस डायबिटीज. डायबिटीज मेलिटस भी हम सब लोग जानते हैं क्या होता है डायबिटीज. So today it's a very interesting topic. We have been discussing about insulin in the past 1 month, and this is the last session for insulin. Her Saturday evening 4:30 to 5:30, eminent endocrinologists from all over India will join in this Facebook program to give awareness to general public regarding common endocrine disorders. So आज हम इंसुलिन के बारे में डिस्कस करेंगे, इंसुलिन कंसर्न्स रिगार्डिंग पीपल हु ट्रैवल विद इंसुलिन, एंड वी हैव eminent endocrinologists from all over the country to discuss about this. So let me first introduce Dr. Jayashree Swain. Dr. Jayashree, hello, good evening, ma'am. So Dr. Jayashree is MBBS and MD and DM endocrinology from Banaras Hindu University. She is now currently affiliated with IMS and SUM Hospital, Bhubaneswar. She is the head professor, Department of Endocrinology and Metabolism. Also, she is the honorary secretary of Odisha Endocrine Society. She is a life member of various societies all over India regarding endocrinology, like ESI, ITS, ISBMR, RSSDA. She is also principal investigator of many clinical trials, and also she is reviewer of IJEM journal and various other journals. She has many publications to her credit. Welcome. We are honored to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you.
So next, let me introduce Dr. Amitabh Sur. Good evening, sir. Dr. Amitabh Sur is senior consultant endocrinologist at Peerless Hospital and BK Roy Research Center, Kolkata. He is the member of American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, ADA, Endocrine Society of USA, and he is also a reviewer and author of numerous publications in various journals. And he has written many textbooks, chapters also in endocrinology. Also, he is a regular speaker in various national and regional conferences of endocrinology. Warm welcome to you, sir. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here. Next, I'll introduce Dr. Mansa. Dr. Mansa Mainapalli. She is MD General Medicine and DM Endocrinology. She is presently consultant endocrinologist affiliated with Dr. Mansa Mainapalli's Diabetes, Thyroid and Endocrine Center, Nanakram and Gachibowli. She is also affiliated with Kim's Sunshine Hospital also. She has various awards to her credit. She is second in the university exam DM in 2020. She has various prizes awarded to her. She is a gold medalist in pediatrics and scored the highest marks in pediatrics in her career. She has also got publications, and various research interests include type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. So she is an ideal person to discuss about today's topic, that is regarding the insulin and diabetes. Welcome, Dr. Mansa. And last but not the least, a very important person we have today with us, Mr. Harsh Kohli. He is a patient advocate. He is himself a person living with type 1 diabetes for the past 30 years. And also he is a father of a 10-year-old type 1 diabetic kid. He is the co-founder of Diabetes India Youth in Action, that is also known as DIA. He is a certified diabetes educator, and also he is the founder of Blue Care Pharmacy. So his lived experience will enlighten all of us and all the listeners to Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Harsh Kohli. So, uh, we have some interesting questions to discuss, and I will start off with Dr. Jayashree. Ma'am, today we are here to discuss about insulin storage and concerns about travel, the meal timings of insulin. So the first question to you is why do you think this topic is important in itself?
Good evening, everybody. So today we are here for the discussions of insulin storage, travels, and meal times related. It's as we know, it is very much important. Our type one diabetes, they will live, they will require insulin for their survival, and entire life they will require insulin. And type 2 diabetes, most of the type 2 diabetes, when their blood sugar is not controlled, oral hypoglycemic agent failure is there, they require insulins. Apart from that, gestational diabetes patients, they require insulins. And type 2 diabetes patients with comorbidity conditions, when surgery is required, or when kidney failure is there, liver failure is there, they all require insulins. And apart from that, pancreatic diabetes, sometimes they also require insulins. So we know the prevalence of this diabetes in India and all over the world. The prevalence is very high. So the requirement of the people require insulin more, is more for control of the diabetes, for good control of the diabetes, to avoid the glycemic, to avoid the complications related to the diabetes. So we require insulins. But thing is that storage is most important. If you have if you are not keeping this insulin in the DGR temperatures, that is around 2 to 8 degrees centigrades, then it will denaturate. There is physical denaturation and chemical denaturations. So the denaturated insulins will not act properly, and there is no glycemic, will not get the glycemic controls. So studies all over the India shows that only 20 to 27 20 to 70% of these peoples, they are requiring, they are keeping their insulin in these refrigerators. It is from Indian study. And in Jipmer, one study is there. Uncontrolled sugar, people have uncontrolled sugar. 50% of these peoples, they are keeping the insulin outside, at the room temperatures. So from this evidence, we can say that storage is most important. For storage during when at home, when you are travels, is very much important for all of us. So, and in every aspect, patient is involved in that storage, because of the patient will keep the insulin, patient will take the insulins, and we physicians are there, we endocrinologists are there, physicians are there only to increase the number and counsel the patients. In our scenario, endocrinologist and patients population's ratio is very, very, very less. And diabetic educators, there is no certain diabetic educator programs all over this India to educate our patients, type 1 diabetes patients and those other patients who require insulin. So ESI has taken a great step to educate the peoples, educate these populations, those who require insulin, to educate these physicians, to educate these diabetologists or any other populations, those who don't have the knowledge regarding the storage and how storage affecting the glycemic control. So for that things we are here, and it is definitely, it is an important things.
थैंक यू मैम. जैसा कि आपने बताया, दिस इज़ ए वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक बिकॉज बहुत सारे लोग जानते नहीं हैं कि कैसे इंसुलिन स्टोर करना है, और कोई हमारे पास इतना भी पेशेंट लोड भी बहुत ज़्यादा है इंडिया जैसे कंट्री में, जैसे कि डॉक्टर विल नॉट बी एबल टू teach everything to the patient. So many of the patients don't know, even after many years of diabetes, they don't know how to properly store insulin. Thank you for highlighting that. And the second question is to Dr. Amitabh Sur. So, Dr. Amitabh, what are the practical problems that people might be facing at their home or workplace, specifically regarding our population, Indian population? You are on mute, Dr. Amitabh, please.
So I think we should see this in two different perspectives. First of all, insulin storage, long-term storage of insulin, for insulin which we have brought from market but not in current use. So that is something different. And insulin which is currently in use, that means suppose I buy 5 cartridges of a particular insulin. One of the cartridge I have already put inside the pen, so I am using that basically, and remaining 4 cartridge which I am not using, I'm just storing. It's an inventory which I maintain. So for the insulin which is part of my inventory, ideally it should be stored, as madam has already said, in 2 to 8 degree Celsius temperature. रेफ्रिजरेटर में रखना है, फ्रिज डोर में रखना है, डीप फ्रिज में नहीं रखना है, बर्फ के ऊपर नहीं रखना है. अभी भी इंडिया में आई थिंक एक बहुत बड़ा पॉपुलेशन है, जैसे कि मैडम बोल रही थी, जो लोग रेफ्रिजरेटर यूज नहीं करते, और उसमें से भी एक बड़ा पॉपुलेशन वो है जो लोग रेफ्रिजरेटर यूज करते हैं, बट जिनका रेफ्रिजरेटर जो है वो ऑटो डिफ्रॉस्ट वाला नहीं है, वो थोड़ा पुराने समय का है जिसको कि डिफ्रॉस्ट करना पड़ता है. तो ऐसे में इसे इट इज एडवाइजेबल, ऐसा कोई फिक्स्ड कुछ तो नहीं है, बट एटलीस्ट महीने में एक बार उसको आप डिफ्रॉस्ट करिए, ताकि ऐसा ना हो कि वो जहां पे आपने फ्रिज डोर में रखा है वहां पे बर्फ आ जाए. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. और कहते भी है कि जो टेम्परेचर शो करता है फ्रिज का, उसको भी साल में एक बार कैलिब्रेट करना चाहिए. आई थिंक प्रैक्टिकली कितना पॉसिबल है पता नहीं है, लेकिन एटलीस्ट डिफ्रॉस्ट का प्रोसेस को रखना है. सेकेंडली, जो इंसुलिन ऑलरेडी यूज हो रहा है, जो पेन के अंदर है, जो कैट्रिज पेन के अंदर है, अगर आप जहां रहते हैं वहां का एम्बिएंट टेम्परेचर अराउंड 25-30 डिग्री सेल्सियस या उसके नीचे है एम्बिएंट टेम्परेचर वहां का, तो आई थिंक वो इतना अनस्टेबल नहीं. अगर आपका टोटल कंजम्पशन कैट्रिज का 1 महीने में हो जाता है, अगर एक कैट्रिज जो पेन के अंदर है आप उसको 1 महीने में यूज कर ले रहे हैं और वो पेन के अंदर है, तो और एम्बिएंट टेम्परेचर 30 डिग्री के नीचे है, तो आप उसको बाहर भी रख सकते हैं. तो ये एक प्रैक्टिकल पॉइंट है, क्योंकि जो लोग ऑफिस ले जाते हैं, बहुत जिनको लंच के पहले इंसुलिन दो, उनका बहुत लोगों का कंसर्न रहता है कि मैं लेके जाऊं कहाँ, ऑफिस में तो इंसुलिन रखने के लिए फ्रिज नहीं है. तो मैं कहता हूं कि ऐसा फ्रिज जरूरी नहीं है उस समय, आप घर से लेके जाइए और लेके फिर लेके आइए. ठीक है.
Thank you, sir, for all those important points. फ्रिज तो बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है बहुत सारे पॉपुलेशन के लिए. इवन इफ यू हैव फ्रिज इन प्रॉपर यूज, along with the fridge also might be a problem. Thank you for highlighting that. We'll go to Dr. Mansa. Dr. Mansa, could you tell
Yes,
us
sir.
what are the important points for people who are traveling with insulin? Those people with
Yes, sir.
diabetes and traveling with insulin. Yeah.
Yes. So this traveling with insulin, so this can be taken care of through various modes of transport, sir. So the first thing is, generally in India, when where the ambient temperature in certain places where it is around 25 degrees, where it is not too hot. For example, in South India, it gets very hot during the summers. So when the temperatures are between 25 to 30 degrees centigrade, when the patient or the person is traveling, he can as well carry an insulin in a box with himself, and he can use it, because that the temperature is apt for that kind of travel and all that. But once the patient comes in the very high climatic conditions where it is very hot, then I always advise the patients to carry an insulated bag. So an insulated bag which contains certain ice gel packs. So the insulin can be carried in that, and not directly over the gel packs, but he can keep a little cloth over it, and then over that we can keep either the cartridges or the vials, and he or she can travel with insulin and use it. So when it is this kind of transport, it is easier. When it is for a transport of around 1 or 2 days also, it is still okay. You can keep changing the gel packs and maintain the temperature. But the issue comes when a person is traveling for a long distances in the air travel, that is through flight or something like that, where extremes of temperatures can also denature the insulin. So that is, even if it is less than probably 1 degree centigrade or more than 25 degrees centigrade, the potency, it loses around 1% of the potency, the insulin. So that time also there are certain criteria that is carry the insulin properly in an insulated bag, and always carry it in a hand baggage. Don't put it in the check-in luggage where there could be extremes of temperatures, and carry an extra insulin with you. And all such criteria, it has been given by the CDC also. There are certain guidelines regarding the method of carrying the insulin when a person is doing air travel. uh, one of the important points in this is that always carry the insulin along with you, that is in the hand baggage, and never always inform the security personnel regarding the requirement of insulin and the requirement that you should be take it on board, because you always carry a letter which is attested by the physician that there is a requirement of insulin for the person. And also when the person is on insulin pumps, they may get damaged during the scanners, that is the scanning machines and all that, and near the security personnel also there is a chance that the insulin might get denaturated. And even in the flight travel also, it is very important to off the insulin pump, to stop the glucometers while it is taking off and landing. And also during the flight travel also, the insulin should not become very frozen. You have to maintain an ambient temperature. And also regarding the taking insulin also, the glucometers also, they can show false values at high temperature and altitude. So everything, so all the temperature, the altitude, everything, it has a concern regarding taking the insulin. But more or less in air travel also, it is always better to carry it in an insulated bag along with the person in the as a hand baggage.
Thank you, Dr. Mansa, for highlighting those points.
Yes.
Especially not only in cars or buses, we people
Yes,
nowadays use a lot of air travel also. So many people
Yes.
might not be knowing that they might be putting it in the checked-in baggage, and that might be one reason why their insulin is not working. So thanks for
Yes.
highlighting those points. So next
Yeah,
question
thank you.
is to Mr. Harsh. Thank you. Mr. Harsh, welcome once again, and we would like to congratulate you on starting a new closed loop insulin pump recently, which you had put in the group. I saw that.
Yeah.
So we'd like to
Thank
know your experience also, if time permits.
Yes, yes.
Your question to you is, as a person with living with diabetes for the past 30 years, and as your experience as a diabetes educator, what are your views regarding these points which were discussed earlier?
Very, very well laid out points. First of all, big congratulations and thank you to the Endocrine Society of India on behalf of the patient community that these are much needed initiatives, and these things need to be put across for people living with diabetes. So, secondly, storage is one of the most important parts when it comes to good control. We often like I'm from New Delhi, so before your checklist to start at the time of buying your insulin, just double check with your pharmacist whether he switches off the refrigerator at night. Because as a kid, I always remember my father used to go quite a lot of distance to buy insulin for me, just for the very fact that the local pharmacists, they used to switch on the refrigerators during night. So this always damages insulin. Secondly, since I frequently deal with children with type 1 diabetes, and they have to carry their insulin pens in their school bags. So once it happened that a kid always had uncontrolled sugars, and it happened only during school timings. So I was very puzzled. So I just put on my thinking and started asking, okay, where do you keep your insulin when you go to the school? So the insulin was always kept next to the tiffin box, and tiffin was always hot. So that way insulin got damaged. So just remember, if you're traveling, be it you're traveling to your office, do remember to keep your insulin in a separate compartment. Never, and it should be away from your food. Not it should not be in your food compartment. We always miss out on these things. These are very, very important. So more or less other points were very properly covered up. I like to. And one more thing I would like to reiterate, that person with diabetes who knows the most lives the most. This is the famous quote by Professor Jocelyn of the Jocelyn Diabetes Center. So I live by that too. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for your views, and your experience is very much important for everyone. We all grow by teaching and learning from each other. Doctors also learn so many things daily from patients, and patients do learn from their doctors. So thanks for highlighting those points. And we would like to know about your experience on traveling with insulin pumps also. If you could just highlight that.
I am on the insulin pump, and it's not a hassle anymore traveling with the insulin pump. as Dr. Mansa rightly pointed out, that just be a little bit proactive, inform the security agencies on your own that, hey, I am wearing an insulin pump, I'm wearing a sensor, and they'll just ask you to just step aside. And nowadays they're very very helpful. They do not target us, or they allow us. Although they just will take the insulin pump in their hands and scan with a small device. That's a very very small explosive metal detector to check for explosives. That's it, and they allow us. And regarding the point which was laid very rightly, that during takeoff and landing, we need to be very careful regarding insulin pumps, because the pressure changes all of a sudden, and there are chances of the pump, the reservoir, being delivering insulin on its own. There are chances, very very low, because of the pressure differences. Very huge pressure difference comes out.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harsh. So the other question, we'll move on and give another question to Dr. Jayashree. Ma'am, what is your views on the temperature stability of various types of insulins? Is there any difference with the previous insulins, like human regular insulin and newer analog insulins, like, for example, glargine insulin, which we are using? Is there any difference in temperature stability of these insulins?
Yeah. Definitely, as you have discussed, all these insulins, they are maintaining their efficacy if you maintain the temperature between 2 to 8 degrees centigrades, and it will maintain their efficacy till the expire date if you are not opening this bottle, opening this file. It is clear, that thing is clear. It is 2 to 8 degrees centigrades. You can maintain every insulins, whether it is glargine, whether it is short acting, rapid acting, human act rapid, or Himalog, or Novorapid, anything. It will maintain its potency till expire date if you are keeping this insulin in the 2 to 8 degree centigrades. So 2 to 8 degree centigrade में सब इंसुलिन उसका पोटेंसी till expire date तक ही रखेंगे. Next important thing is, it is different for the if you open this bottle, it is different for the different insulins. And glargine for long acting, short acting, rapid actings, and that intermediate acting, it is different. And for pen, for pump, and for cartridge, for the pre-filled pen, and for the for other device, it is different. And that things depends on the manufacturer. So shortly, very shortly, I would like to elaborate a few points. Like glargines, the efficacy of the glargine 100 is 28 days, 4 weeks. Approximately all these insulins, they have the 4 to 6 weeks. There is little bit variations, and I will point out these variations. These glargines U100, that is 28 days, its potency. If it is glargine's concentrated form of the glargine, that is 2GO, which is available, U500, its the potency exceed at 30 degree. What I am telling, at 30 degree or room temperature, its the efficacy potency is maintained till 42 days. And if it is a detimir, it is around 42 days. And if it is digludac, it is around 56 days. So this is the potency of the insulins, long acting insulin, which is available at present at 30 degrees centigrades. So glargine ka 28 days, and that glargine 100, glargine 500, concentrate from glargine 500 is 42 days, detimir is 42 days, and digludac is 56 days. Coming to these analog insulins, that is the rapid acting insulins, all these it is little bit different in the whether it is manufactured by the Sanofi, whether it is manufactured by the Novo or Lilly, different, little bit different is there, but approximately it is 28 days. If at 30 degrees centigrade, the temperature it is maintained, so the efficacy or potency is up to 28 days. Next, coming to this is short acting insulins, and it is little bit different if this pre-filled pen. So pre-filled pen, this you can 3 weeks, somewhere it is written as 3 weeks is the potency is up to 3 weeks. Next, coming to this short-acting insulin, what is available throughout the means all over the world widely, and most common peoples they are taking that type of insulin. That is human actrapid, home insulin, or regular insulin, or whatever the form, insulin, lupisulin, osulin. These things are marketed, but the efficacy is around 4 to 6 weeks, and it is little bit less if it is pre-filled insulin. Somehow it is written. And also in the next coming to the premix insulins, it is also another common form of the insulin we are using. In premix insulins, in one, it is different. We should look to the manufacturer, from which company the insulin is, from which manufacturer. So it varies from the before going to the premix, I would like to highlight NPH insulin. NPH 10-day, its potency is up to 10 days at 30 degrees centigrade somewhere from the Novo company, from the Novo, and from this other company it is around 28 days. And similarly, premix insulin, that is conventional insulin, what is we are using human mixture, home insulin 3070, osulin, or Novo, or this lupisulin 3070. This is conventional premix conventional insulin. It is around 4 to 6 weeks if patency is at 30 degrees centigrade. Next we are using the newer co-formulation, that is the Rizodac, now available. It is co-formulations, analog insulins. It is patency is up to 28 days. So apart from these long-acting insulins, all insulins have their patent, their patent at 4 to 6 weeks at 30 degrees centigrade. And pre-fill insulin is a little bit less. That's all.
Okay, thank you for that elaborate reply, मैम. जैसे मोटा हमें देखना है तो पेशेंट्स को याद रखना है कि देयर इंसुलिन विल स्टे ओनली फॉर 1 मंथ. 1 महीने में यूज करना है. अगर आपने बॉटल खोला तो 1 महीने में यूज करना है. मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द टाइप्स ऑफ इंसुलिन. कुछ इंसुलिन है जो और आगे भी चलेगा, लेकिन मोस्टली 1 महीने में, वो 1 महीने से ज़्यादा कुछ लोग ऐसे भी करते हैं कि 6 महीने तक यूज़ किया थोड़ा करके. दैट्स नॉट गुड. इफ़ यू ओपन द इंसुलिन बॉटल, यू हैव टू majority of the times finish it off in 1 month. Thank you for highlighting that, ma'am. Next question is to Dr. Amitabh. Sir, this was a little bit discussed in the previous question, but still it's a very important point. Many people are now traveling with insulin, those who have diabetes, and we would like to highlight once again, especially during pilgrimage, during the Hajj season was there. There are people who are traveling for, especially from my part of the country, my place of practice also, there are many people who are traveling with insulin on an aeroplane, maybe for the first time. So आपके practical points, tips क्या है इन patients के लिए? Please unmute yourself. Please unmute.
So we have discussed this already extensively. As Dr. Mansa has rightly pointed out, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट जो सबको याद रखना है कि इंसुलिन को हैंडबैग में रखना है, लगेज में नहीं रखना है. और एक और पॉइंट जो मिस्टर हर्ष ने पॉइंट आउट किया, क्योंकि जनरली हैंडबैग तो एक ही अलाउड रहता है यूजुअली एक आदमी के साथ, तो कम से कम उसको फूड पैकेट के साथ नहीं रखना है, उसको अलग से रखना है. ऐसे जगह रखना है कि फूड पैकेट के साथ वो टच ना हो जाए, ताकि अगर पर्टिकुलरली अगर फूड गर्म हो तो. these are the 2 points which we should keep in our mind. And third point also, which we have already discussed, that the insulin which is in use, the cartridge which is in use inside the pen, we should complete it. It's usually relatively stable. You should use it up within a period of 1 month if the ambient temperature is less than 30, and if it is more than 30, then as Dr. Mansa has already said, that we should use some kind of cooling bag or ice gel, etc. to store it.
Okay, thank you, Amitabh sir. नेक्स्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, हमने स्टोरेज डिस्कस किया और हमने ट्रैवल के बारे में बात की. एंड द थर्ड इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट विच वी हैव टू कवर टुडे इज रिगार्डिंग द मील टाइमिंग्स. तो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज टू डॉक्टर मानसा. डॉक्टर मानसा, हाउ डू यू थिंक मील टाइमिंग्स अफेक्ट द एफिकेसी ऑफ इंसुलिन? और जैसे किस टाइम इंसुलिन करना है, कुछ मैटर करता है?
Yes, sir. Sir, there are different kinds of insulins, as we see. Okay, the first things, the first ones are rapid-acting analogs. That is bolus insulins. That is lispro, aspartame, glulisin. Further, there are intermediate acting insulin, and there are regular insulins, that is conventional, and long acting basal insulins. So the meal timings are very important, especially when you with regards to covering the with regards to having the proper postprandial glycemic control in regard to the bolus insulins. Because once you see here, there are one thing is normally generally used by most of the people are the conventional regular insulins, especially when we are in a government setup, and when the financial status is not such that they can buy the insulins on their own. So regular insulins, and the second type we see are rapid acting analogs. So both these insulins, they have a certain duration of action. For example, if we say rapid acting analogs, they work for around 3 to 5 hours. So based on that, we should adjust the meal timings. And if we come to the regular insulins, so they work for around 6 to 8 hours, as they say. So based on that, it is very important, because once we take a meal with regard to the type of insulin that we use, we will have a proper glycemic control over a period of time with regards to the onset of action, the peak action, and also duration of action. So in that way, it is very important for the bolus insulins to be taken as advised by the physician or the endocrinologist. That is properly around 10 to 15 minutes before the meal, take the insulin and have the meal on time. And all this is very important for the bolus insulins. But once we come to the long-acting insulin analogs, the basal insulins, the meal timings is doesn't make much of a difference, because it is a basal insulin and it can be taken at a fixed time of the day. Here, what I want to highlight is there are, with regard to taking the insulin also, I see that most of the patients, especially the patients and also their parents in type 1 diabetes, once we instruct them to take a kind of insulin around 10 to 15 minutes before the meal, most of them, they don't do it. The first thing is probably they forget, because it is a daily procedure. The second thing is probably I see some hesitancy from the parent side, that if we give insulin so early before the meal, they may land up into hypoglycemia. They may get such symptoms and all that. But as we see, basing on a particular type of insulin, it is always necessary to follow the advice of your endocrinologist. That is to follow a proper timing between the meal and also the insulin for it to act properly, to have its peak of action at the time of the absorbance of the carbohydrate, and also to have its effect for a sustained long period of time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. मान साहब. हमारे पेशेंट्स बहुत सारे ऐसे होते हैं जो उनको लगता है कि we do tell them that hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Am I audible? Yeah. So ऐसे patients होते हैं कि they think that the people might not eat properly, and they give the insulin after the person eats. So especially if you are taking care of your parents or elderly people, उनको लगता है कि ये खाना ठीक से नहीं खा रहे हैं. तो लेकिन इसमें हमें थोड़ा स्पेशली बताना पड़ेगा कि किस टाइप का, डॉक्टर्स का ये इम्पोर्टेंटली एजुकेशन का पार्ट ही है कि विच इंसुलिन एक्ट्स हाउ फास्ट, उसमें इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है, हम क्यों ऐसे बताते हैं. तो इस अगर पेशेंट्स को जानकारी होगी तो मे बी दे विल हैव मोर. It's hello. I think there is some network issue. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible.
Oh, okay. So the next question is to Mr. Harsh. Could you direct our viewers towards some resources and reading material or some websites which can help them to learn about insulin, proper timing, storage, and all?
The best website, which for us is Diabetes UK. It's one of the best resources when it's concerned. You can also head to the ADA website. Also, the ISPAD. ISPAD has issued a lot of guidelines related to insulin storage, meal guidelines. They've also come up with the latest guidelines for managing type 1 diabetes in limited resource settings. So we can also always look at that. And Dr. Mansa very rightly pointed out that pre-bolusing is an essential tool in effectively managing diabetes. And we must always remember to pre-bolus. And herein, I feel diabetes educator have a big role to play, owing to the fact that we already have an overburdened healthcare system. So the diabetes educators can come in, and the community support as well, the community peer support groups, they can come in and they can educate the parents, especially when it comes to small kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harsh, is there any Indian website which you know of which can give in Indian languages? The
Not the work is yet underway, but not completely. So it will
Okay.
take some time for Indian websites to be up.
Okay, thank you. So जब तक Indian websites नहीं होंगे, we'll stick on to diabetes. It's a very important website, very nice website which gives so much of information for people who are living with especially type 1 diabetes. So next question is to Dr. Jayashree ma'am. Could you give us some tips about insulin storage in people traveling to extreme temperatures? Not only traveling but staying in extreme temperatures, like for example, Srinagar or Leh Ladakh, for example. Such places, is there any specific guidelines?
This is one of the most important questions. I think Mr. Horst has discussed some things, and Dr. Manasa has discussed regarding the travel part. So, staying at the I will have some tips regarding this staying at extreme temperature. If somebody is staying, let us discuss the 0 or less than that. Insulin is stable at 2 to 8. If it is 0 or if insulin is frozen, that efficacy is it is you should not use that insulin. So staying at extreme temperature, that lower temperature, outside temperature is very less. In that situations, particularly people are burning fire in their house, and the temperature, they are maintaining temperature in the range of the 25 20 to 25 in that conditions. And here you can make the temperature you can keep the insulins there. And particularly I like to highlight peoples in that regions, they are using abdominal binder, which is a very long abdominal binder, and it is having having some pockets. So you can keep this insulin say in the abdominal binder in the extreme temperatures, and it will maintain the temperatures of the 5 to 8 degree centigrade. Evidences are there. And again, most another important thing is you can keep these insulins with the woolen cloths, wrapped with the woolen cloths. With the 2 or 3 woolen cloths, you can wrap and maintain the temperature inside. Those people living with the extreme temperatures. And next, coming to the people's living in this extreme means in hot climate, more than 37 degrees centigrades. If 30 to 37 degrees centigrades, the insulin denatured 14 to 17% of the insulin denaturation, they lose their potency after 1 month. So how to keep this insulin in extreme high temperature? We know refrigerator is there, and as I have discussed, only 20 to 70% of these people, they are using refrigerator. Rest 25%, what happened for them? So you can use the some mud that is a pot, but the mud pot with the double layer, it is a little bit safe than the mud pot of a single layer. In one layer you can keep in the center, you can keep this insulin, and this in periphery you can keep the water, but there is a chance of the contamination is there. And the simple things, you can keep water in a pot and keep the insulin there, but be sure that your insulin the water should be at the neck of the insulin, it should not above that. So contamination chance is also there. And the next thing is that you can wrap some cloth, that is some cloth with which we can wrap it cloth with the ice water, and it will take some it will have some maintain these temperatures. But the most important thing is, don't put ice, as Dr. Manas has pointed out, don't put ice above, in the insulin vial or cartridge or other things. Separate it in a separate containers, maintain this temperature outside. And nowadays that different box are thermoflask is there, different thermocool box is there, and you can keep the things in that insulin in that box, and the gel is there, the cool box is there. This is for the availability. Where there is non-availability, the wet cloth, that is mud pot, and this pot with water, and also that also this box thermoflask. It will maintain this temperature in this range of this 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Those are all very important points. हमें अपने patients को उनके हिसाब से बताना पड़ेगा. Some people might be having many facilities at their home. We should. This is probably a social disease, diabetes. I think of this as more as a social disease than actually a medical condition. So बहुत सारे social चीज़ें हैं जो हमें देखना पड़ेगा to get a proper control of diabetes in many of the patients. So another interesting question is to Dr. Amitabh. Sir, आजकल नए insulins आ रहे हैं market में. The newer co-formulations, though they are costly, can they help in some way to improve, reduce the variability when the people are traveling from one time zone to another? Maybe it's for flying professionals. If they use some different kind of insulin, will they get a better stability to their insulin?
डेफिनेटली एनालॉग इंसुलिन्स यूज करने से वेरिएबिलिटी कम होना चाहिए, ये क्वाइट लॉजिकल है. अगर इंसुलिन्स का पीके-पीडी प्रोफाइल हम लोग देखें तो एनालॉग इंसुलिन जो है दो तरह का इंसुलिन मोटा मोटी हम लोग देख सकते हैं. एक है प्रैंडियल इंसुलिन जो कि हम लोग मील के पहले यूज करते हैं, और दूसरा बेसल इंसुलिन्स, और एक तीसरा टाइप आता है जो प्रीमिक्स इंसुलिन जिसमें कि प्रैंडियल और बेसल कंपोनेंट मिक्स किया हुआ रहता है. सो अगर आप एनालॉग इंसुलिन्स का बात करें तो एनालॉग इंसुलिन में सबसे बड़ा एडवांटेज ये होता है, पर्टिकुलरली जो प्रैंडियल एनालॉग इंसुलिन है, कि उनका ड्यूरेशन ऑफ एक्शन जो है वो रिलेटिवली कम होता है एंड ऑनसेट ऑफ एक्शन जो है रिलेटिवली जल्दी होता है. सो जो एनालॉग प्रैंडियल इंसुलिन्स है वो यूजुअली 5 to 8 मिनट्स के अंदर, 5 to 10 मिनट्स के अंदर, 10 भी नहीं, 5 to 8 मिनट्स के अंदर का ऑनसेट ऑफ एक्शन हो जाता है. सो ऐसे लोग जिनका जो मील्स है वो वेरी करता है टाइम, ब्रेकफास्ट अगर 9 बजे किया, लंच जरूरी नहीं 1 बजे करेंगे, 3 बजे करेंगे, वेरी कर जाएगा लंच का टाइम या डिनर का टाइम वेरी कर जाएगा, उनके लिए प्रैंडियल एनालॉग इंसुलिन काफ़ी बेटर है. कन्वेंशनल इंसुलिन जो रेगुलर इंसुलिन, उसका सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ये है कि उसका ड्यूरेशन ऑफ एक्शन जो है वो काफ़ी लंबा होता है, अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 8 समटाइम्स 8 to 10 आवर्स. सो उसमें होता क्या है कि आपके पास फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी ज़्यादा नहीं रह जाती. अगर आप ब्रेकफास्ट 9 बजे करते हैं तो आप लंच 12 बजे नहीं कर सकते, फिर वो शोल्डरिंग इफेक्ट होगा, हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया होने का डर रहेगा. एक तो ये प्रॉब्लम है. दूसरा प्रॉब्लम तो जो ऑलरेडी हाईलाइटेड हुआ ही है, जो डॉक्टर मानसा ने हाईलाइट किया, कि इंसुलिन लेने के 20 मिनट्स के बाद जो खाना खाने का जो प्रोसेस है 20 to 25 मिनट्स के बाद, वो अक्सर ओबे नहीं होता है. सो रेगुलर इंसुलिन के साथ, जो कि एनालॉग इंसुलिन में वो चीज़ नहीं है. एनालॉग इंसुलिन में तो हम लोग जस्ट खाना के इमीडिएटली पहले वो ले सकते हैं, तो जिनका मील फिक्स नहीं है, कब लेंगे नहीं लेंगे, उनके लिए वो चीज़ बेटर है. इनफैक्ट फॉर एल्डरली पीपल जिनके मील्स का कोई ठीक ठिकाना नहीं है, पता नहीं कितना खाएंगे नहीं खाएंगे, फॉर दोज कैटेगरी ऑफ पीपल तो हम लोग इंसुलिन को, प्रैंडियल इंसुलिन को, जो एनालॉग प्रैंडियल इंसुलिन है, उसको खाना कंप्लीट होने के इमीडिएटली बाद भी दे सकते हैं. उसमें भी ज़्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं आएगा ग्लाइसेमिक कंट्रोल में. सिमिलरली बेसल इंसुलिन्स पे अगर आप आते हैं तो जो मॉडर्न एनालॉग बेसल इंसुलिन्स है लाइक U300 ग्लार्जिन और डेग्लुडेक, इनमें थोड़ा आपको फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी काफ़ी ज़्यादा मिलता है. U300 ग्लार्जिन का फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी विंडो इज अराउंड 4 to 5 आवर्स, मतलब कि अगर आप शाम को 6 बजे आज देते हैं तो कल रात को 10 बजे भी दे सकते हैं. इट शुड नॉट हैम्पर द पीके-पीडी प्रोफाइल, वॉट एवर द इफेक्ट. डेग्लुडेक के लिए ये वेरिएबिलिटी शायद और थोड़ा ज़्यादा है, कितना ज़्यादा है बोलना मुश्किल है, बट 4 आवर्स तो नहीं है, वो और ज़्यादा है, शायद 6 to 8 आवर्स तो होना ही चाहिए डेग्लुडेक के लिए. U100 ग्लार्जिन का जो फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है वो रिलेटिवली कम है, बट वो भी बेटर है कंपेयर टू NPH इंसुलिन. सो जैसे जैसे आप मॉडर्न होते जाएगा इंसुलिन, वैसे वैसे आपका फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी बढ़ेगा, और इफेक्टिवनेस एक ही रहता है बट फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी बढ़ता है. फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी बढ़ने से वेरिएबिलिटी कमेगा और हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया होने का रिस्क थोड़ा तो कमेगा.
थैंक यू सर. जैसे हम बोलते हैं we won't get both quality and cheap things together. So हमें अगर quality चाहिए तो थोड़ा costly भी होगा. The many of the insulins which we discuss now today are relatively costly, but as Dr. Amitabh already highlighted, though the efficacy is not much different, still there is a flexibility to people. तो आप अगर आपका टाइमिंग्स ठीक से मेंटेन नहीं कर पाते हो, आप अगर आप थोड़ा सा चेंज करना चाहते हो अपने मील का टाइमिंग, आपका इंसुलिन का टाइमिंग, तो आपके पास ऑप्शंस है आजकल. बहुत सारे इंसुलिन्स जो नए अवेलेबल है, they can reduce the variability and give you more flexibility. So one more question to Dr. Mansa. Dr. Mansa, are there any guidelines from various societies, like for example, Endocrine Society of India? Are there any guidelines for people who are storing and traveling with insulin?
Yes, sir. So the most recent guidelines, it was given by ICMR. It was given in last year, where they had highlighted certain important points regarding the storage of insulin. So according to what they say is the insulin, whenever it is purchased, it has to be first cross-checked, as Mr. Harsh sir has already said, that cross-checked regarding the expiry date, and also check the insulin if there is any discoloration or any clamping or anything, any kind of material that you look into it, especially when you are purchasing an NPH insulin. And whenever you see such kinds of things, it is important not to use that, and also take a proper insulin. And as soon as you take the insulin, it is always important to store it at a proper temperature, that is in a refrigerator between 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. Do not freeze the insulin. It should be kept in the door handle or somewhere where an ambient temperature is maintained. And also you should never freeze the insulin. It should not be exposed to extreme temperatures like direct sunlight. And also in the car, if you're taking it, it should not be kept in the dashboard where the temperature is very high. So, and also regarding the usage of the insulin, as ma'am has already discussed, and that it should be used for a period of 28 days. Any kind of insulin can be used at a room temperature, that is around 25 degrees centigrade. Once it crosses more than 25 degrees centigrade, it keeps losing around 1% of its potency slowly as the temperature keeps on increasing. And also regarding the discarding of the insulin also, it has to be properly discarded. And also once if the insulin, if you use it in an insulin pump or something like that, or when a certain dilution has taken place, you should use it only for a period of around 2 weeks. So, and also regarding storage of insulin and transport also, there are CDC guidelines were issued. So all this is a brief summary of the guidelines from the ICMR.
Thank you, Dr. Mansa. A vial or insulin pen, there are two types of insulins. Is there any difference between these two?
No, sir, there's not much difference. Even if it is a vial or a if it's a vial or the cartridge, it has to be stored in the same way.
Okay. So, last question is to Mr. Harsh, and take any questions if we have anything in the chat box. Mr. Harsh, what are the recommendations which we have discussed today? Is there any difference in people who are traveling with insulin pumps?
We already
That's a question
discussed
to you.
air travel with insulin pump, but yes, since the reservoir, the insulin reservoir, they are very much temperature controlled, so it's okay to travel with the insulin in the insulin reservoir. But yes, when traveling to colder places, just remember to keep your insulin pump inside your woolens, closer to your body, so that your body heat keeps the insulin warm. And, all the insulin pumps, they require modern insulin analogs, so the guidelines and the points are very well laid out, and they're more or less similar guidelines. Nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Harsh. So we have completed our 1 hour of discussion today. There are some questions in the chat box. We'll just quickly run through those. one question is regarding the scanner decreasing the efficacy of insulin, which was already mentioned, I think. Advice to those who do not have refrigerator, that was covered well by Dr. Jayashree ma'am. Other question is, can we put in the thermos with ice inside while we are traveling? I think we have covered that also. We should not put it along with the ice.
Yes.
It should be kept separate.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
that is the insulin and ice, that should not be close contact. There is some things you can put these insulins in some plastic bag or some bottle, and then only we can put this.
Yes. And last question is, what about premixed 50/50? So that is not different from premixed 30/70. That is the most commonly used, premixed 30/70, and premixed 50/50 also is the same. So we have only those questions. So I think that was a well conducted discussion. I hope everybody would have learned. I learned so much from today's discussion. I hope everybody would have learned something new point. Thank you everyone for your time, and I thank the viewers for giving their time and patience. So we'll meet in the next week, same time, same day, Saturday evening at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.